Hello, everyone, and welcome to Models Workshop Presents Gamers and Gadgets. So, a lot of the people that are on this show you're going to recognize from our other show, Models Workshop After Hours. And don't worry. Calm yourself down. After Hours is not going anywhere. It's just a lot of the people involved with that project are dealing with real life issues right now and are really not able to bring themselves to record. And hopefully that'll change and we'll be able to bring back the show. And worst case scenario, once every so often, this crew will get together with some of the other people so we can have a blow off the steam show because, this show is going to be more family friendly. I apologize. I know lots of people like our rowdy humor, but I'm a sellout. I'm just going to say it. I want us to be marketable and all of the jazz. We still have our secondary show. Don't worry about that. Like I said, After Hours is going nowhere. But this show is going to be, the way to describe it is all things geeky. Probably would have been a good name, but the reason we have the gamers and gadgets, one, I'm a geardo. I love gadgets. I love gear. I love all the different things. And the show isn't about games per se, but the gamers, which is us, because we all play games. So if you're here for miniature modeling and painting exclusively, I apologize, but it's not going to just be a miniature modeling podcast. Now, will there be a lot of that included? Oh, heck yeah, because all of us play 40K. We're all miniature painters. We all deal with that type of stuff. But within our little community here, we have a lot of different types of gamers. Like I do board games. My son and I both do RC cars. We do Magic the Gathering. I know Chloe, who's here, does a lot in the Magic the Gathering scene as well as doing some pretty awesome altars. Marie is really awesome on the printing, and she does a lot of Dungeons and Dragons and everything else, but I'm not going to introduce them to you. Not in that sense. I'm going to let them obviously tell you about them. But anyways, so like I said, don't worry about it. We're here. We're still going to be cracking jokes. They're just going to be a little bit cleaner. But I'll start it off with one dirty joke. Zebra fell in a mud puddle. So anyways, moving on, Marie, since you're the new person to the group, introduce yourself.
This is like those meetings at work where you go in there and they say something about yourself, and all you want to do is heave a coffee cup at their head. Hi, I'm Marie, and that pretty says everything to know about me. As Larry said, I do a lot of 3D, both resin and filament. I am a GM for games, mostly Dungeons and Dragons, but others. Play 40K. Play other tabletop games, have way too many dice, and solo gaming is another thing I've been doing a lot of lately because pandemic, and the cat doesn't play games very well. So that's what I do.
Alrighty. I love how she's like, that's all you need to know about me, except for all this other nerdy stuff I'm going to tell you. All right, Chloe. Now, some of you might recognize Chloe from hopping on the US episode, but she was actually one of the co-hosts with Peter over on the After Hours UK show. So if you know her from there, awesome. But tell us about yourself.
Hi, everyone. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've been on this. It's great to actually be back.
Oh, my God.
Doing some kind of podcasting.
Right.
Even though it's quite late here in the UK, it's totally worth it to speak to you guys. So those of you that do know me from the UK podcast, you know that I'm massively into my miniature painting and have been for 20 odd years. The other side to that is Magic the Gathering as well, which I've also been about the same amount of time and is probably my main hobby. Also board gaming, gaming on the Xbox and PC, just everything else in between really. And just a broad nerd, as I like to put it, and anything that's interesting that I can get stuck into and get playing, then generally give it a go. So yeah, looking forward to this. It's a little bit broader than what we usually talk about, which would be quite good and add some more variety. So pretty fun times ahead.
Right. Okay, so Andrew, tell us about
I like to
I like totals.
Like you said, me and him like RC cars. I like to do like building Gundams. I like to play, I can't think of anything.
He plays Magic the Gathering with me quite often, though it's not his main game.
I also like to play on the Xbox. Sometimes just chat for that.
Sometimes he likes to sign into his account on my tablet and has friends call insistently on my tablet, and it's annoying.
Yep, that's my job.
Yes. So for those that don't know and haven't figured it out yet, Andrew is my son. He's my youngest. He's almost 16. So he's right in that right. This is actually when I was his age is when I was getting into Magic the Gathering and all of that. So he's in ripe nerd era. learning type deal. Now, one thing that he mentioned, actually Chloe mentioned Xbox, and so did he. We lucked up yesterday, and
We got an X Series X.
Yeah, we were able to find a Xbox Series X. Now, the downside was I had to get it at GameStop, which it's everybody does this. You can't just buy the Xbox. You have to buy the bundle. So the bundle we had to buy, and it wasn't okay. So it wasn't that they ripped us off. The value was there. Like what you paid for, you got. But you had to get a 3-month Ultimate. I think that was actually
Ultimate
free.
Game Pass.
Ultimate Game Pass. I do believe that was actually free. You had to buy a controller. And then you had to buy a $50 gift certificate, some crap like that. But the way I looked at it is, you can't have too many damn controllers.
Not for our family.
No, and I was actually very impressed with the Series X and Series S, the new controllers. I was actually last night I was talking to Marie about this, and like the D-pad on them are super snappy. It's a much more convenient 8-way pad instead of the cross switch like the old Xbone had.
Yeah,
it actually has a full round circle that getting like the 3/4 and the quarter and whatever positions is a lot easier, and they're very snappy. It's very nice, very snappy. The triggers have a good amount of resistance to it, so they've actually upgraded their controllers because they've also.
I think they're much more comfortable to hold as well.
Yeah,
they are.
Absolutely, a lot more comfortable to hold. I was really excited about it, and then and honestly, like the upgrade quality of the output, insane. When they say it's a 120 hertz 4K output, it really is. It looks absolutely stunning because we went from a Xbox One
S to this, and me playing Forza on the S, it was like crappy, and then this, it's like.
Because we had a game that was actually you could use on the Xbox and the Series X, so we were able to actually compare it to the same game, literally the same game between the two, and the visual performance increase is apps. So we were able to grab an X last night. That was not a planned purchase, but it was.
They never are.
Well, especially with.
I have an Atari 2600.
You probably got it new.
You win.
Yeah, I did. So that's my video game system.
Oh man,
the best.
You have tic-tac-toe.
I think I'm behind the curve.
Just a little bit. We're on 9th generation consoles of the modern consoles.
Yep.
So it's crazy. So
I've got the joystick console.
Ooh. Actually, you can. They are actually making retro consoles for the Ataris and everything now. So they're kind of retro gaming is becoming a lot more popular. It's kind of crazy.
Well, I will say this: I have my Activision Pitfall badge from getting 100,000 points, sending a Polaroid of the screen into Activision, and then you got the patch, like a jacket patch.
That's amazing.
I still have it in the envelope with the letter, and I have the patch.
Very cool.
That's what thought.
That is.
Okay, I guess I'm old, but that's a whole other story.
So is my dad.
I do plan on having that framed, custom framed, so the patch is there and the letters there, so I can have that hang up. But I do have a PS3 that I got mostly for streaming, and I do have 2 games for it. So someday I'll play those.
Wow, someday. I like how you're like someday I'll.
Because I still haven't played a game on it. No, I've had it for 12 years now.
That's a lot of years.
Yeah, you'd have been 3.
Shush. Probably almost 4.
Yeah,
not even
possibly.
I feel.
So yeah, Chloe, like when I got back from deployment and knocked Kara up way back in the day, that's the Spawn that came out. Just to give you just to make you feel really, really old. Me and Chloe have been friends since Heresy Online days, which was no. Okay, he was already born, but he was like it's longer than that.
Longer than that, 12 years? I don't know.
14, like 13, 14 years now. Now, good friends probably. So, but yeah, it's absolutely nuts. So, all right. So, gaming news. Now, this is something we're going to end up doing too, is any interesting news items we see that pop up, we're going to go ahead and share out. I think the biggest piece of news, and there's a couple, but the biggest one that came out was GW once again hit us with the squats are coming. And then on the very next day, they were like, "Oh, you thought we were kidding? No, really, we're bringing a squat army out." So it was
April
like,
Fool. No,
yeah,
just kidding.
April Fools. So they actually had a model that they were showing. They had the army, and they're like, "No, we really are bringing them out. We're bringing squats back." But they have a different name and everything, but still, they're squats. I'm absolutely at a loss of words. I never thought that they would do this. I never thought that it would actually.
For me to buy.
Right. And the models look good. So from what they're saying, it's going to be Imperial tech, except they're going to have some of the old school techs from like back in the 20K and even like pre-heresy type, Primarchs, because that's how old their entire race is. I don't know a ton of the backstory because I never thought it would be relevant, but apparently I was wrong.
Yeah, I think they're from after like the Dark Knight, and then so after the first war, Unity, and then before the Emperor.
Yeah,
so it's quite old in lore, definitely. They look pretty cool though.
Yeah, they really do. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're going to do and how they're going to make them broken compared to every other army, because Codex creep is a selling key for 40K. Yeah. Also, speaking of now, this isn't good news. So there was a bit of controversy at Adepticon, which was last weekend. I don't think anybody here was able to go. If Amy was able to make it on, she actually went. Because they were sending me pictures of her and Yeji hanging out, and I was like, I want to go, but I had family plans. But so this lady named Emma won the Age of Sigmar overall competition. And I
think there was a tie, and then using the tiebreaker rules, they said that she won. Okay. That's where the confusion came in.
So... Well, it's really weird because she went 4-1 and there was multiple 5-0s, but the 5-0s didn't win, yada, yada. And it was a retaliation of the painting. Basically, at the event, they told Emma that she won. And then 12 hours later on her drive home, they sent her an email and sent it out as a tweet at the same damn time saying, oops, sorry.
Oh, my God.
Oops, we messed up. And you're not the winner. You're second place, so we're gonna have to rescind the award and your plane ticket to the UK. Yeah, I kid you not. I was like, "What?"
That sucks.
I was like,
"That's stupid."
I got to watch the Twitter kerfluffle that went with that one.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, "That is horrible." Like,
why would you do that?
She was actually taking it pretty well. She took it very professionally. She was pretty cool about it, at least online. I don't know what she was saying offline, but online she handled it like a pro. She was really good about it.
Yeah,
what else can you do though? Like, that's just a really awkward position to be in, isn't it? If you start kicking off, it just comes back on you. So it's one of those horrible situations.
Dude, I'll tell you honestly.
Yeah.
I'll say it right now. I was about to go to war for her. I was about to. Sorry, I'm trying to fix a light here. I was about to say I would have fired up the old After Hours podcast and was about ready to light into
some chaos.
And it wasn't Games Workshop. Let me make that very, very clear. It was a separate organization that ran the event for Adepticon, and they received a lot of. Needless to say, they received a lot of flack. There was a lot of backlash happening, and I didn't see anyone going over the top. And like I said, and like Marie said, Emma was just like, hey, I'm disappointed. How would you feel if you got this? And I know I tweeted at him and I'm like, hey, you guys really need to fix this because this is bad. This is beyond bad. This is horrible. You shouldn't do this. And the fact that she also found out on Twitter I was like, that's a poor show in and of itself. Y'all should have
called her first.
Yeah, she should have been called. And
she should have had confirmation before they announced it. She should have confirmed that she got the news, and they didn't. They did them both at the same time.
Yeah, because you might see this on Twitter. That was in the freaking message. You might see this on Twitter, and I'm like,
what? But it was already on there.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that is absolutely.
Someone's posted that
horrible.
On there, and then they've gone, oops, we should probably message her because it's already online.
Well,
let's just message her.
The way the message was, because it was a picture of the message they sent her, is what they posted. So I was just like, how can you...
this gets worse.
Oh, yeah, it really does. Like, not only did they screw up the scoring, which in this day and age, how? I know, I get it. There's like 4 scores that end up taking, and the highest point value based off of all the scores is who's the actual winner. That's how come you can have 5-0s in games, but someone who was 4-1 wins it. It's because they had higher paint scores and everything else. But I can program an Excel spreadsheet to calculate this data with weights and everything else in probably an hour. It's not that hard. So I don't understand how they could have this. They have software for it too. That's the thing. They have software. Apparently they don't need to use that software anymore. Nobody does, and it should be burned at the stake. But yeah, Emma was totally the professional. Like I'll be the first person to say she handled it 10 times better than 90% of the people I know. And I'm talking like professional. Like I know people who are professional painters, professional award winners. That no sense, but that would have lost their mind because of just how badly. It wasn't the fact that they didn't win. It was the fact of how it was handled, how they were notified, everything. But GW stepped in and was like, hey, we've talked to the Adepticon people. Essentially, it broke down to, hey, Adepticon screwed up. We're going to step in and we're going to save their butts. And we're going to give both first and second place a ticket to the tournament, which was the prize. Amazing. It was a tournament. I believe it's in UK this year.
The grand tournament, is it?
Yeah, the grand tournament. And I believe they bounced them between the Texas location and the UK location. And I think it's UK this year. And I could be wrong. But I know the US has a tournament. But yeah, she's US based, and they were taking essentially a free flight and room and board to England away from her. And it's like that.
It's not cheap.
No, that would be a major disappointment. Like I said, if it would have been,
plus the disappointment of not playing in the grand tournament.
Yeah, beyond
that's
everything.
The other thing.
Being in the original Warhammer world.
Yeah, and not being in the grand tournament. That's the other thing that they took away is by changing that score, they took away her ability to compete in the grand tournament.
Yeah.
Which is quite a large achievement because it's hard to get into.
Yeah, so that was not good in that respect, and we won't even get into other aspects of it. But I did a hand motion there, by the way.
But yeah,
you could have seen it. But yeah, there are other aspects. But yeah, GW did make it right, which was, I mean, give them a thumbs up for that one.
Yeah, so GW is definitely the good guys in this entire situation. The organizers at Age of Sigmar needs to learn proper customer service skills. A lot of stuff. Like, it wasn't just that they misadded. You know, human error happens. It really sucks. But the fact that they sent out a tweet with the exact message they ended up sending her there, and it was set in there like, oh, you might see it on Twitter first. What?
It's already on there.
Yeah,
oh,
and the
surprise.
fact that yeah. And the fact that y'all don't even attempt to come up with a way to rectify the situation beforehand. And there's a few other things that people were like, hey, how does this person have a 5-0 with a high painting score, but they place like 8? They're like, this doesn't. So there's a lot of scoring issues going on. Golden Demon, from everything I heard, seemed to go off pretty well as any painting competition, because, you know, there's always going to be hurt feelings like, why wasn't I scored higher? But honestly, in the painting community, you know, I've been playing Magic the last year and a half, so I've been in that world, and I forgot. Like, I used to be hardcore in the quote-unquote seedy underbelly of the miniature painting community, and I'll tell you honestly, barring one person that I know of, the amount of drama that happens here is nothing like what it is in the Magic community. Oh my, those people try.
That's what's keeping the microwave popcorn industry alive sometimes, is the drama that's going on there as everybody watches. Everybody who knows where the drama is.
They dig drama.
About the winner?
The Slayer Sword winner, or whatever they're calling the grand prize now.
It's brilliant. They're kicking off big time. It's some of the forums I'm on. It's absolutely fantastic. They're like, the base is so basic, and the paint job's just normal. I was like, yeah, but it's painted exceptionally well. And they're like, yeah, but there's a conversion or anything. They're just freaking out big time. And you're like, but it doesn't need to be. It's a really good model.
Contest. The base shouldn't even be factored into it, if you want my humble opinion.
It shouldn't, though. The model should be painted. It's fantastic. The actual model is brilliant, and an amazing paint job, as you would expect. Being
And
Slayer sword
that's
winner.
what people forget, is that it doesn't have to be coated in freehand like the Russians do to make it a good paint job. I mean, you just need solid skills and get rid of the mold lines and fix the fine cast problems that come up with it. But if it's a good paint job, it's going to show through.
I like
Exactly.
the year that Matthew Fontaine got upset with everyone talking about conversions and everything, went and bought a $12.50 Space Marine bike, put it together, painted it, and I believe he took gold. He might have took silver.
Yeah, he won.
Yeah, with a Space Marine bike in the vehicle category, which is
no messing around.
Yeah, vehicles probably the third hardest category in Golden Demon, and he took a gold with just a basic Space Marine bike. Like the basing was it was like your basic basing too. It was exceptionally. It was a beautiful model.
The gravel.
Yeah.
Tuft of grass.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
I mean, I would expect nothing less than an exceptional paint job from him. But yeah, I could see it'd be the equivalent of Derek Schubert being challenged.
Right. It's
in the fantasy miniatures.
It's just silly. But yeah, the toxicity and like miniature here. I have to say that in the miniature painting competition or community, I don't think we seek out drama and BS. You know, do we hear about it? Does it happen? Absolutely. Drama is going to happen anywhere there's egos. And let's face it, a lot of us are very egotistical. But like the Magic the Gathering community, they seek it. Like they look for drama. Like there was Seb McKinnon.
Love drama.
Seb McKinnon is in some hot water because of he went to a rally and in the game of telephone, and the narrative switches so much while doing this. He went to a protest about the mandate, which is totally within his rights, and it got blown up to it was neo-Nazis held the protest. Not true. They showed up to the protest just like everybody else, and it was a small group of them comparative to the hundreds of people that were there, and like the narrative got blown so far out to left field, and I'm like, wow, holy crap! Where
right field?
Where
if you talk it this way, it's right field.
Right, all the way out to right field. It's like where did you get any of this information? Like the only thing that you got right was his name. Everything else is so blown out of proportion that it's like, yeah, and it's not even that I'm enamored with his artwork. If anything, if I was going to stand up for anyone, it'd be Therese Nielsen, because I actually like her artwork. I'm not a Seb McKinnon fan, but on the same side of things, you know, don't make up stuff. Don't try to smear someone's name by making up stuff. If they've done bad things, cool. Like Therese Nielsen had a bit of a grocery list of some of the stuff that she did. So there was a track record. As far as I know, Seb McKinnon, the only thing was a really weird press release, and it was weird. And he went to this thing, and neo-Nazis happened to also be there. And the arguments people make are just mind-numbing. It's like, well, if you're going to hang out with Nazis, and it's like he wasn't hanging out with Nazis. 10 neo-Nazis showed up and tried to Shanghai the event to co-opt it to their purpose. It didn't work. There was a lot of people there that were trying to co-opt it to their purpose that it didn't. That does not make Seb McKinnon Nazi. We actually have a literal Nazi in the miniature artist community. We don't need to make Seb, a pseudo-Nazi when he's not. But yeah, the weird world and drama of Magic the Gathering. So any news that y'all have heard about? Any nerdy news?
I'm going to bring up the absolutely freaking obvious about Reaper Bones 6 on Kickstarter.
Yes.
And the flood of messages off the Reaper 4 groups and everything as people jump on there. But oddly enough, there's a number of them coming up saying that they're underwhelmed by the offerings on this one.
Truth be told, I have become more and more underwhelmed with the Bones as they went on. Like Bones 1 and Bones 2, honestly, I don't think we're ever going to get... And I think part of the problem is people are looking at sheer model count as well and not size. Like if it was per weight, I think it would be slightly different.
I do like their use of themed sets that they've started doing.
I like the gnomes.
I think it makes sense that when they do, it's like an expansion when they go forward and say, this is the next stretch goal. And it's a themed expansion. I think that's helping, because otherwise the first couple of them were truly just random minis because they were taking their best sellers and getting the molds made for them. That's why the first couple were completely random sets of miniatures.
But they were
and then after
so many miniatures.
I will say, I will admit, I back it strictly to get the new paints that come out less, so I pay a little less for them, and maybe one or two minis that I find that are cute. But so I like Reaper. I'm a metal snob, so I'm not much into their Bones and Bones USA lines. So I'm not really their target demographic here, but I do go there for the. Heaven knows I need more paint because I just don't have enough.
So for those who don't know, it's Reaper Bones 6. It's titled Tales from the Green Griffin. Currently, it's been live, it looks like, for about 3 or 4 days, and they're sitting at 756,000, which for anyone who has followed the Reaper Kickstarters, that's actually kind of low for being 3 days in. They're usually double that.
Are you talking about money or made?
Money.
Okay.
So this time around, you've got the core set, which is 125, which is a little more expensive than before. It doesn't have a ton of... Okay, so it has a good amount of small models, but it also looks like they're including a very good amount of medium-sized models. But yeah, like if you would go back and compare this to Bones 1, 2, or even 3... the number of models. And another thing that they've been doing is add-on expansion, which I like and dislike both equally, because I like them because you can order just the expansion that you want and get it. Like, no lie, the Green Griffin, which is, I guess, a pub, is awesome because for $50, you get the fireplace, you get the bar, you get beds, you get tables and chairs, you get barmaid, you get people drinking. Apparently it's haunted because there's a ghost. So for $50, if once everything is unlocked, and it will because it unlocks at 1 million, that's a good deal. And just like the next one, the Shadows of Sullenhall expansion, for $50, you get a crypt with a whole bunch of undead warriors. You get a shrine. You get ghosts that are actually in the green plastic. Those are actually good, by the way. You get some more undead stuff. And at the last one, you get a giant skeleton, which is has a 3-inch base, so it's like 6 inches tall, and it's really awesome. Now, what they're doing is essentially you, the purchaser, are fronting the cost for them to have these molds made. These are miniatures that have existed before. Some of them are new. Some of them have never been made before. But a lot of these miniatures have already been out, but they were in metal. For those who don't know, and I don't know the exact date, you can actually kind of track it down by looking up when Failcast and when Bones 1 launched. That gives you a roundabout idea of when this actually all started. Around that time frame, the price of tin jumped up like tenfold. Like it increased by like tenfold or 20-fold, something ridiculous. And if you didn't know, pewter is like 90% tin. It's an alloy, and it's primarily tin. So whenever it went
we're gonna take a real quick step back in history. This is not the first time that tin spiked and Reaper had issues with the cost of getting their alloy. That's where their old P65 line, they started that one up. That was their answer, which was going back to a mostly lead mix, and those were the lead miniatures again.
Right.
And then once tin dropped, then they discontinued that line. This time when tin spiked, they went plastic.
Yeah, but this time around, tin also never went down. And that's why a lot of places don't use pewter anymore. That's why Games Workshop actually created their Failcast formula. It wasn't because they wanted to or they were trying to save money, but the problem was their base material was going to be 10 times more expensive. So that $3 miniature that you were buying from Reaper, as an example, would have had to have been increased to like $10 for them to make the same profit margin. So, and this wasn't tin went up and it's going to come back down. Tin has never come back down. It's actually steadily increased in price ever since then. Honestly.
And Reaper is still putting out metal miniatures.
They are.
So is
GW,
they haven't stopped. they still are producing them, especially in the licensed lines.
Right.
Because I can't see them making injection molds for something where they don't hold the license. That's just scary waste of money.
Well, so to get back to the topic at hand, it was basically tin. Their raw material became super expensive, especially for the models that they were selling a lot of. So they started Bones 1, and it was to pay for injection molds. If you don't know, injection molds are freaking expensive. The equipment to inject them is also very expensive. So they had to get the capital up. I believe the first Bones ended up making like 6 point something million.
That's a lot.
And I actually took a tour of the Reaper facility and spoke with Reaper Brian, who doesn't work there anymore. But I spoke with him, and he was telling me about how it actually did exceed their expectations of how much they were going to bring in. So they were able to actually get a heck of a lot more models made. They actually had to go back to their artists to have them create additional stretch goals. Now, that's one thing I will say about Reaper. I like about Reaper is they actually have, whenever you hit a stretch goal, you get some. It isn't like, oh, here's one miniature for generating another $10,000. It's like, oh, hey, we made another $10,000. Here's 10 miniatures. So that's really nice. But ultimately, in the quick line of things, that's what happened. That's why everybody pretty much tried to remove themselves from pewter. Pewter's a great material if you're only going to make a very limited number of, and you could argue that you're almost better off getting hand-poured resin at that point, but that's an argument for another day. But the molds to make pewter models, spin cast pewter models, are a lot cheaper than injection models. And that's why you're basically paying for them to make the upgrade. So speaking of Kickstarters, on a completely different direction, the professor of the Tulare Community College, who has been rating different Magic the Gathering products for 6 years now, something crazy like that, sat down with the guy who runs GameGenic, and they designed the professor's perfect deck box. And it's really, as a Magic the Gathering player, it pretty much is exactly what I'm looking for. It's coming up on $2 million, I believe now. It can hold 130 triple sleeved cards. It's ridiculous. It has a compartment for big cards if you're playing Plane Chase or oversized commanders. It's got a spot for dice. It has a spot for tokens. It's quite literally like the perfect deck box. So I definitely would say those are both Kickstarters that if you were into either one of those games, you definitely need to go check out because they're both top notch.
Just back to good one for board gaming.
Oh, what do you do back?
Have you played Unstable Unicorns before?
I've heard of it.
I've not played it, but it is on.
It's really good. So the people who created this have got like loads of games out. They've got Unstable Unicorns, they've got Llamas. Then they brought one out last year, which was Here to Slay. It's all about puns, which is why I love it so much. It's brilliant because it's like RPG based. But the new one is called Casting Shadows, and they've just released that, and it's currently on 2 million, and it's really cool. It's like tile based with a bit of RPG background. Really, really fun. But the whole kind of theme of their games, the artwork and everything is just fantastic. It's just really easy to play. So if you've got friends who are like just getting into kind of board gaming and without loads of complicated mechanics, it's really easy just to set up, read the rules and get into it. So real fun.
I'm looking at what I've backed, which we won't talk about that.
That's always a mistake.
There's a couple of them on here. One that's closed, but you can get it for this year. It's called Quest Calendar, and it's one of those page a day calendar type things. And when you pull it off the page, you look at the back of it. It tells you what you do for the next day's quest, what dice you roll, and it's a solo play, but it's a page a day kind of quest. You can do the whole thing at once. Obviously, you can sit down and run the whole year at once, but you go through, and I'm horribly behind because life got in the way. But I was in the middle of fighting demons, and I had gotten through the first round, and I'd killed 2 of them, and I think 2 were still up. So the next day was going to be working on that one, but it's called Quest Calendar, and I think you can get it on itch.io. It's not expensive to do for a print and play, and you can get this year's yet, and you can get the 2021 you can get as well if you like doing those. But that's one. But another one that I'm looking forward to is Button Shy has put out an expansion to the Rove game. They do a lot of wallet games, And some are multiplayer, some are solo player. So, and Rove Think is free on P&P Arcade right now, and then you can just get the expansion. So I've been doing a lot of like the roll and write and the solo games. There's a bunch of them out there, and there's like €1 for one of the games, €1 or two, because a lot of them tends to be based in the across the pond, as some of us really shouldn't say because it sounds so stupid.
It's a big pond over here.
But there's a lot. They have a lot of depth. So, but yeah, that's a one that I'm kind of looking out there. But I definitely have to get back on my Quest calendar because I am just
Actually, I really like the sound of that Quest calendar. That sounds neat. I'm not gonna lie. That's actually I would never have even thought about that. Calendar a day, peel it off, and look on the back, and it's like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do for the day. That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it's a great idea, and obviously, hopefully, we'll be able to provide the link to where you can get these on itch.io for the previous, and then you'll be able to get 2023 as well. They'll sell that after. You can either get them printed as an actual calendar for your desk, or get the print and play if you don't want to have the physical. If you don't mind running out a little bit of ink on your printer. So
you can still late pledge for the 23.
You looked it up, did you?
Yeah, under our games, it's the sci-fi, like this space fantasy. I'm in.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah, like I say, they're a lot of fun and they're very well thought out. The mechanics are very good.
The dice are so pretty.
Yes.
I should have known they had dice. I should have known they had dice.
Yeah, I'm in. I'm getting there.
What? Whoa! What? Wait a second. You're not getting their dice?
What?
I thought you were a dice addict.
I have considerably buying dice.
What have you done with our Marie? Where have you hidden the real one?
I don't
Marie
know this
has
person.
run out of storage space for them at the moment.
No.
Sounds like
So once I reorganize
Global storage.
then I will get back to buying dice.
My wife was like, stop making dice and give them to all your friends. I was like, I think they'll hate me for this because I've already got too many.
That's one hobby I haven't wanted to get into, and I'm rather particular about the type of dice I like, which helps significantly in buying dice.
Yeah.
Because the kind I like are the rounded edge, and almost all the handmade ones are precision edge.
Sharp edge. Yeah.
So-
Sharp edge mold.
Yeah, it makes it so I can say, oh, good, I don't want those, which is always a good thing for my credit card. And
your feet, because you never want to step on a precision D4.
No, those definitely are well up. That's actually that might be above a Lego. That might be above a Lego to step on a precision D4.
I would say I would definitely vote yes. That would be a pain threshold. Even a non-precision D4 would almost beat Legos.
The last dice I got were a Kickstarter, by the way, and they're called Hexa dice. They're not a standard. You can look it up on Kickstarter. They have weird, different shaped facings that have that gives it, I think, either more. There's a precision issue with it, so it's not your standard. Like a 20-sider. They're very oddly shaped. And it took them a long time to get these made. So I haven't had a chance to play with them much because they've been sitting waiting for stuff. But they're a unique shape of dice. And I don't know if he's going to get to make any more of them. Well, hopefully he did because he had the molds made. But there were polishing issues and they couldn't get the faces right. And so, oh wait, there's some dice that'll be showing up. Never mind. Marie's going to get some more dice. I forgot I got kitty clacks. So, oh look, that one was. Oh, that's unsuccessful. Whew. Okay.
Speaking of dice, I backed a Kickstarter and this is goes into the story of be careful because you're not guaranteed a product. I have 2 Kickstarters that have. I wouldn't say one of them, I'd be surprised if I ever get a product, and another one, I'll probably get a product. What decade it'll happen, I'm not 100% sure. So there was a guy, and I guess he's notoriously known for pyramid scheming Kickstarters, like running a Kickstarter to pay for the previous Kickstarter because he's kind of screwed up. And
I hate that.
It's pencil dice.
Oh no! Yes, I backed that one too.
Yeah, and apparently he went out and purchased, and he did release pictures. And
some people got them.
Yeah. So I had that happen too. I bought a dice bag, and the guy got put in jail So we figured, we're never going to see these because they were all handmade dice bags. They're super nice. They're like a whole bunch of internal pockets, but when you cinch it just once, it seals all the pockets. It's a gorgeous dice bag. But dude ended up getting put in jail for something. Nothing bad. Just he got put in jail. So we were like, okay, we're never going to see these. No, but as soon as he got out, he actually got him knocked out, and I got mine in the mail one day. And apparently the guy who did that Kickstarter, I think he's pretty much put out that he's not going to be able to do all of the colors that he had originally offered, but he ordered like 100,000 dice from China, and there was cases of dice sitting at his house, and he bought a foiling machine, like the actual heat press foiling machine, and he is hand foiling all of these dice. So
question, what's foiling?
It's applying a foil. It's basically this material, and when you put it down, you heat it up, and it sticks to the material. I forget the actual term. Embossing. It's an embossing machine.
It's a heat embossing machine.
Yeah.
And they use it on books when you have like on the spines of books where you see like the gold lettering in that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, except he's doing it on dice. And he's doing all 6 faces, and it's usually an automated process. You know, normally you ship them off to China, they do them, and they ship them back. But he's actually, hey, you know what? Here's the thing. I know he has more than just that particular Kickstarter that he dropped the ball on, but at this point, the fact that he's still trying to get it done and he's doing it all by hand, if I get it, I'll be like, yay. And then the other one is I backed a folk band out of Nashville. It's called Fleming and John. It's a band that I thoroughly enjoy. They had one song that actually got radio play way back in the day called Ugly Girl. And I've loved that group. They've only ever put 2 CDs out. Well, they had a Kickstarter to create another CD. And I was like, okay, cool, because they do 90% of the music themselves. She plays like 3 instruments. Her husband plays like 15 instruments, and he mixes all their music. So I'm like, all right, cool. We'll get it. This was like 2015, and I'm still waiting. And they keep us updated. I guess life really, and I totally understand the entire life thing. And then the 2020, we don't need to talk about that. But yeah, it's like I keep getting updates, and they're like, we promise we're still working on it. We recorded this track for another one. And I'm like, at this point, Fleming, just record yourself singing acoustically in the shower for your songs, and I will be happy. I would just really like to get more music. I really want another CD from them. I really enjoy this band, and the last CD they put out was literally in the 90s. So it's like, damn it, I really on it. Some of the best albums ever produced, in my humble opinion, MTV, because you get this raw sound. And I'd be totally cool with an album of new music that was recorded essentially. And if you want to do post-production stuff later, awesome. But, at this point, just send me a damn album. I really, really want it. And I'm not trying. It's not because I want to be mean or because I just want more music from you, damn it. I like your music. But, yeah, that's my story of the 2 failed ones I've been. Oh, boy. So
I'm sitting here watching my 3D printer, one of them, as it's printing the hilt for a prop chainsword. And it's just the hilt, mind you. It's a 34-hour print. It's going to be darn near as tall as I am by the time it's done. And I'll do a quick measure here. Just the hilt is 24 centimeters high. And without the spikes, it's about 17 centimeters wide from the handle. And that's just the hilt. So
big.
This thing's going to be
How much filament is it going to use? What's its weight?
Let me pull up my little chart here because I've been keeping track of that. It's going to use about over 2 spools. The bolter I just finished was
for the hilt.
For the hilt. Oh, that's 438 grams.
Oh, that's almost half a roll. That's pretty.
The bolter was 1,700 grams, so 1 3/4 spools. That was 162 hours to print. This one's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 7 days to print.
On all the different sections?
Yeah, it's only 4 prints because once you get into the chainsword, it's pretty repetitive. But, and it's got a hole down the center so you can put a dowel in there to give it some more rigidity. But this thing's going to be freaking awesome.
How long does it take to clean some? Do you have to do much cleaning on that, or is it?
this one I'm using the thicker layer lines because I want it to be more stable. And it shouldn't be too bad. I'll have to fill the gaps. I have some filler, and I'll just sit out there. I'm not going to make it perfectly smooth because I don't care that much. But it'll take a little bit of sand. Yeah, I have to get off some of the support marks, and then I'll do some layer filling and gap filling and sand it down. And the painting shouldn't be too bad. And the bolter, I still have to print the purity seal and one for the sword. And I need to print a couple of emblems for the bolter. I have to make those because I don't like the one that came with it. So I have to get on the...
That's a product that I think that someone should formulate, is a special primer that is designed specifically for 3D prints. That's like self-leveling, gap filling, and sandable. I think that would be... You
mean the 3D primer from Badger?
They actually do. Badger came out with... Man, this shows
two-part. Yeah, it's a two-part. He sent me some, and I haven't tried it because Fat Dragon, Tom Tullis from Fat Dragon was one of the people who truly tested it, and it does do an excellent job of smoothing. But I looked at the instructions on it because it's a two-part thing, and you do lose a little detail. And there were too many of the clean the airbrush immediately instructions to make me truly comfortable with throwing it through my Patriot. So I still have them, but I'm just going to fill. And for the miniatures, I use resin anyway, so it doesn't matter. There's no way I would have been able to afford the Badger primer for something like this chainsaw.
Right. I was talking more something like along Crayon, like a spray product that's in a spray can, not so much an airbrush product, because that seems logistically a nightmare for the stuff.
Over the top of this, I'm going to be using Duplicolor Sandable Auto Primer because it does have filling capabilities. That's what I use on my metal miniatures anyway, or I used to before I switched over to the airbrush. And it gives a real nice tooth to it, but it does have some fill capability to it. So that's going to be the final fill that I'll be using, is the Duplicolor Aerosol Primer. And it comes in colors, but I'll probably still use white or gray just because I prefer that. So, but yeah, I have a bolter in many pieces here. And then the chainsword just started because I'm just in a silly mood.
I can actually hear your 3D printer in the back.
So I'll lean over. So, it's doing a perimeter right now, so that's the sound.
Here's a quick lesson for people who are wanting to get something 3D printed. So, you can look up what a spool costs. And material cost on 3D printing, honestly, isn't that bad. For every 1,000 grams, you're going to spend somewhere between $20 and $25, depending. And you can even spend more, because they do have some specialty filaments that are pretty expensive. But
as I look up here at my $60 spool filament and keep quiet.
Right. But the material cost is actually one of the lesser things, because the horror stories that I keep hearing about the 3D printing community is people go, well, it only costs $20 in a spool and you didn't even use a full spool, so why are you charging me $60 for this model? And there's multiple reasons. One, there's a good chance, and sad as this may be, there's a good chance that print's going to fail, so you're going to have to print more than one. Part two, those 3D printers use a lot of electricity. Like, there's an actual calculator out there to, like, what temperature your head is, what temperature your bed is, how long the print is. And you're talking not cents, you're talking dollars amounts of electricity to do a long print. So on top of the material cost, you also have the electrical cost. Another thing that you also have to keep in mind is this is not something that you're supposed to hit start and walk away from. You're supposed to stay somewhat in the area. Now, there are solutions around that, especially...
Cough, Prusa printer, cough.
Also, you can set up 3D printing. You can also set up cameras pretty easy with a Pi. There's ways around it, but still, they have to be monitored. They have to be tended. And also, if you're getting a product that is cleaned afterwards, like they're going to take a lot of the posts off, that's another thing that you have to factor in. And that's not even including the splicing, the designing, the switching out of the beds, the wear and tear, because if you use, let's say you want a metal filament that's like $30 a roll. Not only is it going to cost the $30 a roll plus the $5 to $10 in electricity that you're going to use, not to mention the, babysitting the damn machine, but there's wear and tear on that machine, especially with like metallic or any type of wood grain filament. It's going to damage the nozzles because for the most part, they're brass because it's the easiest one to work
even
with.
glow in the dark will eat your nozzle too.
Yeah, everything will eat your nozzle.
Anything with inclusions is just going to eat right through it.
Yes, and even regular plastic will eat on a nozzle. So there's wear and tear. There's general wear and tear that you're paying for on that machine because there's a lot of moving parts. The stepper motors can burn out pretty easy. The nozzles you might have to replace.
Now I don't sell my prints. I'm not set up to be a business for that.
Right.
What I do is I barter my prints, and I use an hourly cost to keep track of what it quote unquote equivalency is. And I printed out a bunch of printable scenery for somebody, and there is no way in heck that this could have been a fair trade, because I did the one of the 4-part libraries that took me over a spool of filament, 156 hours. And charging by the hour, that's a lot of money right there, sitting there in that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's the thing, is a lot of the times there's a lot of calculators out there for what to charge. So you throw in your filament cost, you throw in the time, you throw in what the overhead, and it'll spit out a price for you. And then resin printers have a whole different situation than the filament printers when you're printing miniatures.
Yeah.
Because those, yes, are going to fail. That's just a given. It's going to pull off the bed, and you're going to end up with this blob at the bottom, and you go, profanity.
Yeah.
And then you go clean it up and take care of it.
But this, I know I have multiple printers. I could probably set myself up to sell, but I don't have time to run them like I should. But it's a horror story that I hear a lot of people talk about, who do print work. And, a lot of people just look at it like, oh, it's only $20 a roll, and you're not even going to use a roll. And you're like, so I should only pay you $10. And that's not how it goes. So a lot of people really need to adjust their ideals on it, because there's a lot that goes into 3D printing that I don't think a lot of people are aware of. And I wasn't aware of until I got my 3D printers up and running. It's like, holy crap, this stuff is not easy. And
that's a learning curve.
Mm-hmm. And you're paying for that part of that learning curve too. It's like, hey, why did you charge me an hour for only doing 2 minutes of work? And it's like, no, I didn't charge you for an hour for the 2 minutes of work that I did. I charged you an hour for the years that I learned how to only do this.
The classic situation.
Mm-hmm.
I've got right now the second print going on my third Recca-Truck Squig buggy, and I'm printing the crew right now. I printed the hull. Unfortunately, the way it was designed, I couldn't hollow it, so it's this massive hunk of resin. And I lucked out, because when I looked, I could see the film at the bottom, so I was perilously close to running out of resin on this one. So it's this massive hunk for the hull. But I'm printing the crew right now. And again, that takes time, especially because it's thinner layers. But I will now have 3 separate Recca-Truck Squig buggies.
Hey, you could probably just drill a hole in it and empty about half that resin out.
It's already cured. It cures by layer.
Right.
And when you put a hole in it, the holes aren't actually to drain the resin. That is not their purpose.
No,
holes are to break suction when you're doing a hollow print.
I had a friend who had a 3D printer, and for some reason, resin on the inside of it, like inside of a model, wasn't curing properly. That
can happen sometimes. That's where transparent resins do have a benefit, because you can cure all the way through. And I might switch over to those.
Yeah, this was a cloudy resin.
Yeah, generally, because it cures by level, each layer should fully cure. You shouldn't end up with those pockets. A lot of the time, it's a poorly designed model that leaves voids where the resin gets trapped, and that's where you can have problems with it. But
yeah,
I couldn't hollow this one, so it's this massive hunk of resin. And so I pulled that one out. I just cured that one today, and I don't trust my curing station for these big ones. So what I'll do is I'm going to just curve up a piece of tinfoil and have it sit where the patio light falls on it, so it'll sunlight cure for a couple of days, just to be sure. And I still have plenty to print. So yeah, right now I'm printing the crew that goes with the buggy.
Yeah,
and then I have tires and other assorted things to print. It's 4 prints for me to make this one.
So that's a hot take. That's a really good tip too. If you do purchase a resin miniature and for some reason it doesn't feel like it's fully cured, literally just toss it in the sun, or maybe not in the sun, but like where sun will catch it, because they cure by UV. So that's
504 nanometer is the light wave frequency.
But yeah,
in case anyone's playing science.
Just gotta wait for that sun to get over here for that. That's the only problem.
We have over 300 sunny days a year where I live, so nature
Nice.
has
I wish I
provided
lived
me a
there.
curing station. And because it's semi-arid, I also have a filament drying station just by living here. So this area is excellent for 3D printing all around in that respect.
The UK has 4 sunny days a year in which we all wear shorts and have a barbecue, and even if the clouds are still out, we still sit outside even if we're freezing, just to make the most of it.
Oh man! So my personal plans for the podcast right now was Andrew and I and my daughter-in-law. We're going to sit down and we're going to start busting into this collection.
He has a lot of. Sorry.
This massive collection of board games that I have sitting in behind me, and talk about the various games that we end up playing. So hopefully everyone here is liking what we're doing. This is exactly what we're going to do. And we are talking about bringing on guests, and they can be anywhere from authors, hopefully, to game designers, to video game designers, to, whatever.
Yes, I do have them. Yes, I'm still trying to paint them.
I've actually my speed freak.
It's cool.
In my blog because I've been doing depth of color on them. But I've got 500 point speed freaks I've been working.
That's awesome. My last Armies on Parade was basically like an outback, think Mad Max, but with orcs and grots. It was pretty cool.
There's one of the squig buggies I can't wait to paint.
Oh, so you're saying about the. Sorry, folks, if you notice some weirdness, we had a small glitch in the thing, and
we were just too awesome, and it overwhelmed his equipment.
Yeah, the taco truck ruined it.
The taco truck was just too awesome for the equipment.
All right, so Marie, you had asked Chloe if she was an orc player, and go.
Yes.
Yeah.
So because I'd heard that we have many that it's mostly orc players that'll be here, but you were talking about your Armies on Parade. The last
I made like a Mad Max orc edition with a grot tub, which was pretty cool. And they were like a workshop preparing the buggies with blowtorches and stuff. So I converted quite a few of them. And I know that a lot of the sets within vehicles come with like mechanically minded grots anyway, aka they throw spanners at each other. So that's quite good. So I didn't have to do much with them, but it was really cool.
I have
a lot of work. But
I have painting grot.
and
cool. Somehow I got the one that wasn't released where he's got the squig under one arm with a mask and a hose going to an aerosol. So he's got the paint squig. And that one wasn't released as part of the set. But the other ones have the buckets on the head or they're carrying the paint. So it's kind of set up for the workshop. But yeah, I have one with the aerosol thing because I love squigs. I love those stupid little carnivorous meatballs. And I love Squig. But he's just hanging there and the Squig's legs are just kind of hanging down. Squig's hanging out as he's got the aerosol thing going on.
Do you all remember back in the day in Baltimore, I think it was 2006, where they had the Cake Boss, I believe it was one of the cake baking shows, made a squig cake.
Oh, I remember seeing that.
I didn't see that one.
It was at Baltimore Games Day. I want to say it was 2006. I was actually there. It was the only Games Day that I ever actually got to go to, and it was huge. I mean, it was supposedly, from what GW said, a 1-to-1 actual replica of what a squig would be in real life. So it's massive. And it was a cake, and it looked realistic as a fantasy orc
fake animal could be.
Yeah, it looked, but it was like, and it was, and they ended up cutting it up and serving it out for everyone. So
please tell me it was red velvet. Please tell me it was red velvet.
I honestly can't remember. This was like 4 or 16 years ago. Okay,
I'm pretty sure didn't you post it on the forum? I'm pretty sure you did. That's how I ended up seeing it.
Yeah, all you had to do is like Google squid cake, and it should pop up. Games Day squid cake. It was like I said, it was on one of the televised because there was a whole bunch of notices when you walked into the floor. It says, "Hey, we're doing television production here," and what they were doing was actually shooting for the show itself. It was either Cake Boss, because back in that era, that time frame, there was a whole bunch of cake baking shows everywhere.
Oh, this thing is just absolutely awesome.
Right? So they were actually recording for that episode at the Games Day that I ended up going to, and it was just nuts. That was the year my team won Best Club Table Fantasy. And it sucked because apparently everybody else was in White Dwarf, but I wasn't because I actually had left the venue to go visit a friend of mine who lived in Washington, D.C. And they're like, yeah, we had our picture taken for the website in White Dwarf. And I was like, are you kidding me? Because I was responsible for painting a good portion of that table. Like I walked in, it was like basic flat gray for the roads and everything. I was just like, and I had just driven from Fort Campbell. I was like, do you mind if I work on this a little bit? And they're like, no, go ahead. And I was like, all right, cool. And all they had was this acrylic hobby paint, like the big gallon size. And they only had black and white and I think maybe the primary colors. So I had these gallon tubs of paint and I'm like mixing paint on styrofoam plates. And I was like, well, first thing we need to do is like, we're going to dry brush these roads because they don't look good. Just basic gray. So we did that. Then then I made a wash and the old school method of paint and soap. Then just a whole bunch of stuff. And I did all the work and they ran out for sodas. And by the time they got back, they came in, they're like, is that the same table? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, wow. And I was like, it wasn't even that hard, my friend. Dry brushing and washes. Dry brushing and washes.
It shows that if you take a little bit of attention to detail can make a huge difference in your game table.
Right. I mean, it was, we ended up winning the club table that year. We had the best table at the games day, which, yeah, that it was an actual competition. And that was just, I mean, it was honestly, I'll say it would not have won if it hadn't been for the touch-ups. Now they did, like, the work that they did is they bought a whole bunch of molds from Hearst, and everything on that table was molded out of dental resin or dental plaster. Like all the tiles, the roads, the hills, everything was, that table weighed a metric ton. We had to get a special trailer just to haul the table to the venue.
That's because it's cement.
Yeah, pretty much.
I know, because I have a modular dungeon made out of that. So they did all the Hearst Arts buildings.
Hey guys, I'm gonna go see.
He's gonna go play some Xbox Series X, probably. Gonna go get it. Go get his Forza on. All right, talk to you later, Andrew.
Bye.
But yeah, it was no, it wasn't any buildings. It was just hills and roads, lots of roads. But they were all Hearst molds made out of dental plaster. It was gorgeous. Like they gave me a gorgeous work surface, but it was basically primed by the time I got it. It was flat gray. Everything was just flat gray. I was just like, No. If Bruce puts that much work into his molds, you got to at least wash and dry brush. Oh, that's what I did. Like I said, once everything was said and done, it looked really good. You know, they did a lot of work. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. Anyone should have done it. I think it was just honestly just an oversight on their part. I only spent maybe 2 hours on it. I know they told me putting everything in place and getting it level and stuff took them like 30 hours. So they gave me the most amazing work surface, and I just added a little bit of flair to it, you know, a little bit of green here, a little bit dry brushing. It was definitely a group effort. But yeah, so that was, speaking of squigs. Now, okay, let's talk about the taco truck, because I'm not 100% sure that it was recorded. So if we've talked about the taco truck story before, I'm sorry. From what I heard of the story, because I don't know how long it wasn't recording. I think it was only like 45 seconds. I reached over to make an adjustment. I think my arm hit the space bar. So I don't think it was very long, because I looked up and I'm like, why is it not moving? Oh, this is bad. Oh, we've already recorded 1 hour and 4 minutes, so it didn't record not much. All right, cool. So, taco truck.
This is one of the models from Gear Guts Mech Shop. I am not above promoting other, where it came from, and it's a Rucka Truck squig buggy, but it's a taco truck, and it's on the side where they've got essentially the serving window. You've got orcs hanging out and some squigs, and one of them's got a box that's out there, and the sign, it actually has taco on one side of it, it's blank on the other, but it's the Rucka Truck squig buggy taco truck with a tank front.
Okay,
it's got it's very flat on the front with just the slit window, so obviously you're going to be running into things, but it's hysterical, and I can't wait to paint it and field it because it's too funny.
Now, I have to say that you need to redesign a sign for it and make a chimichanga truck too.
Well, I can write chimichanga on the other side, because the other side of the sign, it's two signs really, and again, I'm doing hand gestures here. They kind of V out, because in between them is this a grot with the squig cannon. So the other side is actually doesn't have anything on it, so I can write chimichanga if I want to.
So, okay.
I was thinking about just doing fast food, which is true.
It needs to be painted black and red then. It needs to be like the Deadpool,
it's definitely going to be
Deadpool chimichanga truck.
Yeah. No. It's not going to be a Deadpool chimichanga truck.
Chimichangas.
But that would be perfect.
But it's just, I had to.
Since we're on a kick of goblins and orcs and stuff, anybody here remember the Gob Ross model that they released?
Yes.
With the stretched out squig on a canvas? I need to find mine. It's been misplaced, but I need to find mine and paint that because that was just an awesome model.
I just found a Space Marine model that I have to. It's the generic term for it's called Angry Employee. It's an L-shaped desk with a computer and a Space Marine sitting behind it. Sorry, a space soldier sitting behind it, and like 4 different assault weapons just mounted to the desk on the other on half of it. And it's called the Angry Employee. It's just too funny not to make.
Oh.
But it's got the computer on the other side, so it's just like any office situation, and then you've got like 4 assault weapons mounted to the other side of the desk.
So in other nerdy news and nerdy stuff, touch back real quick on Magic the Gathering. The Pro Tour is back, and they actually have a very clear road to the Pro Tour now, unlike even older systems. So they've gotten rid of basically they had the Pro Tour. They did a stupid and got rid of the Pro Tour for this other program, which nobody liked. Nobody liked it. And then COVID hit, and so they didn't have any system there for a while. And then they just recently, like 4 days ago, announced that they're bringing back the Pro Tour. There's a clear road for the Pro Tour. They're fully supporting it. It's basically back to the way it was. Grand Prix are not back yet, but they're having tournaments called Regional Pro Tour qualifiers, which are essentially GPs under another name. Grand Prix are Gs, by the way, for the non-Magic playing people. And so the Pro Tours are back. The new set's coming out. It's the Streets of Carpana. And then there's also another set that's following it, which is Commander Legends, and it's based
Baldur's Gate.
It's based in Baldur's Gate, and what scares me about that set is that there's a confirmed card that has been released that had a collector number of 900 plus, which means all the various basic, like we know the base set only has like 360 cards in it, but there's going to be 900 sets once you factor in all the alternate arts and everything.
Just getting silly now.
I think it's like 939, I believe, was the buy a box promo number. And I was just like,
as a set collector, it's getting stupid.
Yeah. I was like, I sent it to my friend. He's like, yeah, what's wrong with that? I was like, look at the collector number. And he's like, holy crap. I was like, yeah, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely insane. I'm flabbergasted. So, there's also speculation in the finance market for MTG that there might be getting rid of collector boosters, but that's unsubstantiated. I honestly don't believe it. They sell too well. I think as far as like MTG news, that's pretty much it. There hasn't been any other than Laros getting banned not too long ago. Bad kitty, no pie.
They need to keep collective boxes because then everyone can dump money on collector boxes and get a crap return on EV, and then I can keep continuing to buy set booster boxes, which are really good.
Yeah,
because if they get rid of collector ones, then the set ones are going to look crap. So,
well, their speculation was because a couple companies were offloading the 2 Innistrad sets really cheap, and it's like
150 here, and that's cheap here.
I was like, that's not because they're getting rid of collector's boots, because those sets sucked. And and there's another version of the set that's people want more, because the double feature boosters seem to be the premium version of it, because Wizards, for those who don't know, they had a 2-block set for Innistrad, and it was Vow and Midnight, and neither, like, you could have probably taken all of the good cards or even reasonably good cards out of those 2 sets and made one set, and it still probably would have been me at best. Like, it was a very underwhelming 2-block set. It would have been kind of an underwhelming one set. That's how good it was. Now, the cards that were in it that are good are obscenely good. Like the Meat Hook Massacre, the fact that one of the cards that's worth like over $2 is a common should say how good that set is. Consider. So overall, everyone's speculating that they're going to get rid of collector boosters because they're having a fire sale on it. And it's like, no, it's because that those sets suck. There's like 3 chase cards out of all of them. The land block in them, slow lands are not that good. They only see play in some commander builds and in standard. And overall, it was just a very weak set. A very weak block. It was boring. It was boring to open up. Thematically, it should have been amazing because it was supposed to be werewolves versus vampires. They managed to screw that up. The entire set based around a wedding made me kind of go, what the hell? And it wasn't even, it would have been cool if it would have been like well done, but it wasn't. They had box toppers in half the sets that were mediocre and underwhelming. And then to finish this all off, they released a set called Double Feature that was released in black and white because it was supposed to harken the days of the old black and white monster movie. And they released both sets in their entirety in these booster boxes. And to say that like I pulled the Meat Hook Massacre in foil out of Double Feature, and that card's like $400.
It's a really nice card.
Yes, it looks.
It's the only
gorgeous
nice card,
too.
really. I did the pre-release for Midnight Hunt, and there's that Ren and 7 was okay.
There's a couple.
Not many.
There's
decent.
a couple cards, but like I said, you could have easily made both of those sets into a single set, and you would have been fine. And I think the biggest disappointment about Double Feature is it was 700 cards. So I bought 4 boxes of Double Feature. I lucked up and bought 4 boxes and pulled some pretty insane pulls and got lucky on my foils. And I still barely made my EV back, even considering I pulled a $400 card. So that's where we're at. Then Kamigawa came out, and it's a fun set. That set's just fun.
It's a good set.
Yes, it's got a good amount of everything. It's good to draft. It's good to play. It's got chase cards that are not mythic, and that's to me is a key indicator. If you have rare chase cards and uncommon chase cards, then the set's going to have a better return. If all your chase cards are nothing but mythics, the art. Oh my god, the art. There's cards that suck that I'm collecting because the art, and I'm not even a Vorthos. I'm not even a big art person in MTG, and I absolutely love it. So, Cultivator Colossus is another big card that came out of that block. Ren and 7. Hallowed Haunting has actually been jumping up a lot. And then Toxrill, but that's mainly because of Hullbreak Horror actually is the first rare that's worth any money. But yeah, it's just such a boring set. There's like 3 cards that are actually worth a damn out of this set, and it's just so annoying. It should have been amazing, and it absolutely is everything but amazing. Anyways, moving off MTG, so Marie can join us again.
No, I was enjoying listening to it. So.
But yeah,
I learn a lot that way.
But yeah, so that's what's been going on. I'm actually really looking forward to the Streets of New Capenna because it's going to be demon mob bosses. And some of the stuff they've previewed already, I'm like, I'm ready for this. And the fact that it's a 3-color set, and they're releasing the other triomes.
Yeah, I'm happy about that. I don't know if I'm a fan of the showcase ones though. I mean, they look cool, but I'm just thinking of what they look like get next to my other triomes in my collector folder. Because I am a collector above everything else.
Yeah, that's the one bad thing is they are definitely going to look completely different than the other triomes. Maybe they'll do an Ultimate Secret Lair where they do the...
Yeah, and charge me a bloody fortune.
Well, honestly, they were I can still get them today for $80 a pop, and you get all 10 of the borderless foil flip lands. Like in the ones that you got for the Ultimate Secret Lair 2. The ones with the layers in them. That one's only ended up being like $80. If they do that with the oh man, if they come out with that for the triomes at $100, that includes all 10 triomes, I'll be all over that. I will buy 4 of them as soon as I can because I did not play a lot during Godzilla, so I don't have a ton of the triomes. But that's almost what they're going to have to do because, like you said, the showcases between the two are totally different. So they're going to have to do the Godzilla in the Capenna style, and they're going to have to do the Capenna. The Godzilla ones in the Capenna style. I think I just said this twice.
I have spent a lot of money on Ikoria. It's the coolest set I think I've probably ever opened, and apart from MH2, but generally I think I've bought 2 collector's boxes at least, and then at least a couple of draft boxes, and it's just so much fun. It's the most awesome set, and it's such a shame that it came out during COVID, because it would have been amazing. It would have been so fun to play it pre-release and just in general. It's a waste, really.
The only downside about Ikoria is honestly companions. Those should have never been brought into the game. No. Like, instead of banning Laurus, what they should have done is just remove companions from the game, period. Like, the entire mechanic, because the only thing happened is they removed Laurus, and then now we're dealing with 2 other companions that are taking over. And it's just like, just get rid of companions, period. Let them be played. You know, Laurus in and of itself is not a broken card. What made Laurus a overpowered card is the fact that the companion. Get rid of the companion ability. Just make it where you can run them in your deck as a normal critter. He's still going to be a good critter in your deck, and just move on from there. Companion should have never been done. I think they realized this. They've pretty much banned them out of everything, but they just need to ban the rule as a whole. Like, there is no more companion rule, and just make them just vanilla generic creatures. And the fact that, and you're right, the fact that it was released during COVID was disappointing, because I think Mutate would have been an amazing ability, but we never got a chance to showcase it because COVID and there wasn't any drafts. I would be 100% for them just taking Ikoria as it is, removing the companion cards, putting in like 4 or 5 other cards, and just releasing the set in its entirety again.
Yeah, I've got a Narset commander deck, which is 3-color Triome, and it's just so much fun. And with Mutate, I played it the other day, and it just got ridiculous. And was like, "You're not playing that one again." I was like, "Okay, cool." That's the joy of creating commander decks and not knowing the power rating straight away is quite interesting.
Right. So, as far as Magic news, I think that's everything that's really has been a thing. Now, movies, because there's a movie that came out this weekend, and Sony, why do you play with my heartstrings like this, Sony? Seriously? So, Morbius came out, and a lot of people were probably like, who's Morbius? To be fair, a lot of people were like that when Blade came out, too. For the same reason, they're both very obscure comic book character. Like, Blade even more so. Morbius, if you want to, I honestly think people knew more about Morbius than they did with Blade during the comparative time period. But I have been a fan of Morbius since the early 90s, and I collected all of his books and everything, so I've been like a real big fan. And I watched the previews, and I'll be honest with you, when I watched the previews, I wasn't very helpful. I was like, I was like, okay, right, I'll give it a chance. And I was going to go watch it this weekend, but then all of the reviews started coming in. And to say that they're not positive, it basically, I usually don't put a lot of faith in reviews. I like to be my own judge. But when they were quite literally mimicking the things that I was thinking when watching the previews, like bad CGI. There was a ton of bad CGI in the preview trailer. And
how's that even a thing now?
Right.
It's 2022.
Exactly.
Seriously.
There wasn't, I mean, they're making supercomputers out of PS4s. Just go to your damn local GameStop and for those who don't know, that is an actual fact. You can look it up. The U.S. military actually made a supercomputer out of PS for processing satellite images. But yeah, they were just basically saying the same things, like, hey, the CGI was poorly done, the storyline seemed very flaky, and it was everything that it pretty much was confirming everything that I was saying. And it wasn't like Siskel and Ebert. We're talking like IGN and people at places like that, actual nerdy outlets. And I was just like, man, damn it. I am
planning on seeing that this week because I like going. To be honest, for a lot of this, it's just a way to escape and to have popcorn with very unhealthy butter-flavored grease on it.
Nice.
Yeah. Hey, that's what it is. For me, it's an escape. It's a few bucks because I go during the day, and I don't know anything about the character. I make sure not to read the reviews, see the previews, watch the trailers, anything that I can avoid. Well, I can't avoid the previews because they're before the other movies. But I think the biggest problem with it in general is that Sony made it. I don't think Sony knows how to make a good comic book movie.
And that's really kind of where I stand with it too. That was the first strike, was the fact that Sony was making it, and they've already, like, the first Venom wasn't bad. and usually I can look at what they've changed and go, okay, cinematically the change makes more sense than what was in the comic book. I mean, to be fair, typically origins in a comic book make no damn sense anyway. So it's like, they changed the origin up a little bit. I'm cool with that. The second Venom movie, I'm also a big fan of Carnage. Like, Maximum Carnage is my favorite story arc of all times, and it actually includes most of the comic book characters that I really like, because I like obscure comic book, like Slapstick and Sleepwalker and Morbius, and yes, Blade and his little crew, because the Night Stalkers were never famous. They were actually, Night Stalkers only made a feature in like Blade 3 minutes. Or no, actually they were in, but poorly represent, very poorly represent compared to their comic book counterparts. But overall, I can understand some changes, but then they make the Carnage movies straight up suck. Like, even discounting the fact that I am a huge fan. Tell us how you
really feel about it. Tell us how you really feel.
It was horrible. It was honestly 2 hours of... No, okay, let me rephrase it. It was an hour and a half of stupid slapstick comedy, buddy cop style type movie between Eddie Brock and Venom, and then
because Sony was trying to prove that not all their movies are dark.
Yeah, they really should have shut the hell up and actually just done a dark movie, because it's Venom and Carnage. The character is named Carnage.
To use a Terry Pratchett phrase, it's like a teenage boy going on a date wearing a cologne called Rampant. They're just trying too hard.
And that's what they did. They really tried to force the narrative of the buddy cop, and it's not. And they took the Maximum Carnage story arc, which honestly took like 20-something comic books over like 9 different comic book lines, because that story, I collected every single damn issue of that story arc, and it appeared in every Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man Web Hero, Morbius had a couple issues with it in there, and the Night Stalkers did too. Ghost Rider had issues. So this story arc was huge, and it had hundreds of comic book characters, and I understand they don't have the rights to most of them, and they're not going to bring back Ghost. They should have. I mean, that would be a good way to get Ghost Rider to.
Yeah, but not if Sony does.
Well, yeah, everybody else.
Agreed.
In all honesty, that entire arc could have easily been a phase by itself. It could have been 5, 6, 7 movies made into super intricate storyline that included Morbius, that included all this stuff, and it didn't. They shoehorned it into essentially a half hour of action. And it really kills me, because Woody Harrelson, yeah, he was really good as Carnage. I was backing him being Carnage 110%. Yes, he's a good Carnage. Tom Hardy, honestly, this is going to sound weird, is a bit small for Venom. Venom is supposed to be this Olympic level athlete, like huge. But once again, I get it. Comic books is real life, and maybe Batista was actually out making a good comic book at the time. And so yeah, it was just poorly done. And then they're like, "Hey, we got Morbius, and it's Jared Leto."
Come on, this is a studio that took Spider-Man and face planted. And then they said, "Oh, we can do this." And then they took it again and face planted. And they finally said, "Marvel, fine, you do it." And
it was awesome.
Not only did he, I mean, the intro when they were showing the reactors with the promo with Spider-Man coming in and everything. Hi guys. To be perfectly honest, Marvel, that was a whole obscene gesture. It's Sony saying, "This is how you do it." And then taking all of their characters and bringing them into Marvel canon and doing it well. It just shows that Sony has issues with understanding their audience when it comes to comic books.
They actually read them.
Yeah. The first Spider-Man wasn't horrible. The Raimi Spider-Mans were not horrible until the third one. And that one was because producers got their nose into the movie and they were like, "No, you need to do this." And Sam Raimi was like, "No, I'm not." And then Sam Raimi had to go do something, and they basically strong-armed Raimi's brother into filming it, because I guess he was the B director, into filming it the way that Sony wants, and that's what we got in the film. Like, the entire emo Spider-Man was 100% on Sony. And then,
as I said, Sony doesn't understand their audience
and
how to take their character.
And do you know why we never got a third Garfield
No.
Spider-Man? Oh, this is freaking ridiculous. So Garfield was sick. Like, sick. and he missed a meeting with the president of Sony, and they fired him. That's why we never got a third Amazing Spider-Man.
Again, Sony doesn't understand.
It's like they
Anyone
take...
else would make,
And here's
I mean,
another...
they would never have hired Robert Downey Jr. for Iron Man if they would have had the IP.
Well, to be
But
fair...
he is Tony Stark.
To be fair, Disney took a big gamble on him. Well, no, it wasn't. Yeah, it was Disney. Disney took a huge gamble on him because, honestly, he was washed up. He was blacklisted. No one wanted to work with him anymore.
He was actually coming back, but he had to be insured. Because he had come back. His comeback, there's a music video out by Elton John called I Want Love. And that is kind of a turning point because that's the rehab that took for Robert Downey. He was let out for one day to film the music video, and then he had to go back. But that's when he took. But even then, all the movies after that, they had to have insurance on him. So all those movies where he was making his comeback really took a chance on him because he's an excellent actor. And let's face it, the guy is Tony Stark.
Oh yeah, it's like.
And my favorite thing ever, in the first movie when he's crawling down to get the first arc reactor put back in his chest, my ex leaned over to me and said, "Hey, he looks like his mugshot."
And here's the thing. Here's the one thing that I really like about Tony Stark is Disney spun the entire story, the narrative, to actually kind of like when you say he's Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man, that's really true because they took a lot of stuff that was based off of him in his real life. Like there's a very he was a former alcoholic and he got himself together just like Robert Downey Jr. And
yeah.
They used it as a teaching tool, which is something that I really liked. And there's quite a few characters that I cannot imagine anybody else playing. Truth be told, he's probably the number one.
He made the role his own.
He really did. He started the MCU. I mean, technically,
he is. Well, not anymore because of the stuff they brought in with canon. Because they brought the characters in, but actually, I understand what you say. He did start the MCU. Iron Man did start the MCU.
I mean, technically, in timeline, the Hulk did come first, but they weren't thinking of the MCU at the time. Iron Man was the first soft start of the MCU universe before
That's when they were phasing. Yeah,
that's when they started phasing. That's what we did. We didn't know at the time, and they were like, "All right, let's try to do this." And here we are, like 23 movies later, and we're still chomping on the bit for the next movie to come out. Like, come on! Who would have ever thought that
it comes out on my birthday? Doctor Strange 2 comes out on my birthday.
And man, have you watched What If?
No, I've been watching.
Some of them are good, but some of them are weird.
Some of them, it's just like the comic bok. Some of the comic books were like,
yeah,
what? There's a
couple
couple episodes of What If that you have to watch.
It's one of those. Okay, now I'll put that at the top of the list because I've got so many things I want to watch because I haven't watched so many things. I tend not to watch TV, but I'll put that on the top of the list now because I've heard really good things about them.
It is hit and miss. It is hit and miss. There's a couple,
but that's like any comic book series is going to be hit or miss. Every comic book that's come out. Honestly, even in the comic world, some things hit, some things miss. You just move on and it keeps going.
I don't mean miss as in like they were kind of weak. I mean like they missed as in they're just really freaking weird. Like you're watching and you're like, what?
Okay, I've watched Naked Lunch. I don't think anything could be weirder than that movie, so I'm okay with it.
But what is going on with it?
There should be an article out on which one you need to watch, but there's one that specifically deals with the multiverse. You really, I'm gonna watch them really in order, need to watch.
I'll watch them all. I don't mind that.
The weird thing is you don't really have to.
I want to, though.
Well, that's fine, but I'm saying you don't. For anybody that's out there listening, if you just want a quick catch up, and I do highly recommend watching the episodes that deal with Doctor Strange. It's going to be the last episode, and I think it's like episode 4. You need to watch those because they will have a direct tie-in to that movie. So
to get back to it. What other actor, at least in the MCU, do you figure because you said that Robert Downey Jr. you can't picture anybody else as Iron Man, or at least not that incarnation of Iron Man. Are there other actors that you were thinking that just so embodied their character you can't imagine someone picking up from where they were?
Wolverine, 110% Wolverine.
Oh yeah.
Oh well, okay. That's a given.
No, I mean, he's not technically MCU yet. Well,
Comic
kind
book.
of
We'll just say
pseudo.
comic book. We'll just say comic book. Any of the. I don't want to say Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool because he wasn't Deadpool. He was just Ryan Reynolds. Really.
Well, the thing is that is kind of if you read the comic books, that is what
Deadpool.
it is.
But Ryan Reynolds is just too much like that naturally.
He's like that.
I get
Deadpool
that,
in most
but
movies.
the thing is, I can't picture anybody else playing Deadpool because even in the comic book, you can't. You could almost say that this character is based off of Ryan Reynolds, and it would have been believable because they're so similar to each other. Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool. I honestly don't believe anybody else. Like another person could play Wolverine. We wouldn't like it, but they could. Another person could play Iron Man. We wouldn't like it, but they could.
They're gonna do another incarnation of Iron Man because the character's too strong. It'll be another. They'll have another person pick up the mantle and the armor because they have to.
That actually already happened. There is what's that?
Wasn't there another? I don't know if it was a what if actually. I don't want to spoil anything. But
in the comic book series, there was someone who picked up the mantle.
Yeah,
Disney's not going to let that IP go to waste. So there will be another incarnation of someone who takes the Iron Man role, not Tony Stark kind of thing. But
I think they've already. I think they've already hinted at it. I think we might have seen the character even.
And that's okay. That's fine. It'll work. They'll reboot the character as somebody else in their own way. As long as they make it a standalone. Okay, this isn't someone trying to be Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. This is someone who is this. If they stand him alone, it should be okay, and I'm okay with it.
It's basically what happens is someone does pick up the mantle. It's not a reboot. It's a continuation of the story arc. Someone does pick up the mantle. There's two characters that I remember from the MCU that I've seen directly that have a good chance of being that person, and they actually have backup within the comic book series. Okay, comic book characters that I don't see being changed. This one might be kind of interesting, but Samuel Jackson, well. I mean, he embodies that character so damn much. They changed him in the comic to be him.
He does embody the character very well.
Because it was a white guy beforehand.
And having to keep it clean makes it even funnier.
Right.
Because we're all waiting for him to slip.
Well, Samuel Jackson.
They did that one. They did do one little dip with him, but we're all waiting for it.
I want to see the R-rated cut of some of these movies where Samuel Jackson's in
there.
Oh yeah, where
are
all these M and Effin mutants on this M and Effin hover carrier? Well, speaking of Samuel L. Jackson, so when he plays Mace Windu in Star Wars, and
the purple lightsaber, purple lightsaber.
He asked for a purple lightsaber, and they were like, "Why?"
Which
and
did
he's
not
like,
exist.
"Right,
I want it.
No, I want it. It didn't exist in canon."
No,
Samuel L. Jackson.
Because he's like, because purple's my favorite color, which it is. Purple is his favorite color, but he, in a later interview, said the reason is I want to be able to pick myself out in the fights. So, and a fun fact, you alluded to it, or you just outright said it. Before then, that didn't exist. So the entire color coding system that is actually very much so a part of the modern Star Wars, like so much to the point that in the cartoons, so-and-so has a white lightsaber. In The Mandalorian, they have a black lightsaber. None of that existed before Samuel L. Jackson because he wanted a purple one. So they had to come up with a reason. They had to come up with a reason why. And so there's this huge canon output now of why the various different colors of lightsabers are these different colors.
Well, they had the advantage of saying the expanded universe no longer matters when they took over the IP.
Yeah.
Well, true.
So they wiped out the entire established expanded universe. So they were able to start it up again the way that they wanted.
But even in the expanded expanded, I don't think it was either like it was said, it was either green or red. There wasn't a lot of difference in them. And then all of a sudden, here's Samuel L. Jackson. I want a purple one. You want a what? A purple one.
Give me a purple one.
Why is it purple? Because he has tranquility and all of this other stuff. Because he
am
rides
Samuel L. Jackson, and I want a purple friggin' lightsaber.
Well, Samuel L. Jackson's character, it rides that line of being.
Why?
Oh yeah, but it rides that line of his character actually rides the line of being a gray Jedi. So he's right there. He's not exactly the nicest guy like Yoda, but he's not evil. He's not a full Sith. He rides that fine line of being on the good and the bad side.
So I will do what I'll probably end up doing a lot during these is pull out another Terry Pratchett quote, which is, "There is no such thing as gray. It's just white that got grubby."
Mm-hmm.
Which is true, actually, in the entire definition of what a gray Jedi is. That's actually kind of they're typically good Jedi who decided that they don't want to stay totally good, and they kind of dip their toes in the dark side, so they become gray. Or
yeah, so but,
the true
I'll pull out a lot of Terry Pratchett quotes probably.
I've just finished reading Sorcery, and it's just
that one's from Carpe Jugulum. If you're interested in where what came from, it's Carpe Jugulum.
So the first episode of Moon Knight came out, and I literally finished watching it right before we started. Like literally right before we started, I had just finished the episode, and acting is great, visuals look good. The first episode wasn't super enjoyable. It was an origin-y movie with not any origin in it. So it's kind of like, or not movie, show. I watched it and I'm just like, I could have honestly done without. It was over the top. Hey, this is what's going on. So, yeah.
Well, give them a chance. It's
no.
The first one, they're still kind of finding their way.
Oh, no. I think the series is going to be amazing. Just like the last 5 minutes of the show really led me to believe that, okay, this is going to be really freaking awesome. It's just the first 45 minutes of it seemed very I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't as awesome as some of the other shows that I've seen them. So I do have faith that the entire series is going to just be like, wow. I think the one thing that really sucked was I didn't realize that only the first episode was out right now. So that's all I could watch. Now, if it had been like the first episode and then continuing into the second episode, personally, I believe I'd have been just like, oh, this is really awesome. Because
we are so spoiled by binge watching. And then they completely tripped us up with the one episode per week when they started doing the Marvel stuff.
Well, that's a Disney thing.
They put us back to where we were, which was, okay, now you got to wait.
Yeah, Netflix was the one who used to dump everything on us at the same time, and then all of a sudden Disney is like, nope, one a week. So it's Netflix.
And
fault.
they mastered the cliffhangers.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to do the cliffhangers. So I will admit, I waited to watch WandaVision until they were all out. I waited.
Oh, that's so good. That's my favorite, I think.
That was a really
I
good
waited
series.
until they were all out so I could watch them.
I love that one. I could watch that again. It's brilliant.
But I wanted to binge that one, and I was watching Loki every week because I like Tom Hiddleston as an actor. He really has he's embraced the role and made it where he's chewing the scenery. He's given a depth where it could have been really bad. I don't know if I like the series though. I'm still iffy on the series. It hasn't really grabbed me, but all the discussions about him and Sylvie and what it would actually be and if they got together, and it's just, well, this isn't After Hours, so I can't really get into that. So we'll just leave that alone. But I still love Alligator Loki.
Yeah, I was going to say Alligator Loki.
I have to print an Alligator Loki because I want one on my desk.
They have a pop vinyl of them too.
Yeah, I'm going to actually I have the file. I need to print one so I can have an Alligator Loki on my desk.
Yeah, Alligator Loki is probably the best part about
favorite.
That.
I honestly think that's everybody's favorite Loki is Alligator Loki because no one explains it. It just is.
It just shows
it's
up,
just a thing.
And everyone looks at it and they're like,
"That's a Loki." Yeah, that's a Loki.
Yeah, and that's where they leave it. And you're just like, I want that origin story. I don't need to hear about parents dying again. I want that.
See, I absolutely love it when they do something like that. They just drop it in, and it is.
Yeah.
They don't explain anything. There's no backstory. There's nothing. Ate the wrong cat. I've heard people saying, well, maybe he ate goose.
That's a good parallel. I like that.
I also heard there's a lovely little bit of fanfic that I read this week about Goose, about Nick Fury keeping Goose, and Goose only doesn't like try to eat good people. So that's how they the Hydra agents, Goose was eating them. It's like, where's 60% of our workforce? So Goose is just going through S.H.I.E.L.D. and chomping down on about 6% of who's there. And no one knows why. All of a sudden eating this person, but not the other.
So
I thought it was a little bit of fun.
speaking of parents dying, to happen to watch the Batman movie?
No, not yet.
I can't sit in the cinema for that long. I need to wait till it comes out.
Honestly,
I'm gonna back out of this topic. I'll let the two of you discuss it.
like Batman?
No, this is where I get a little personal. Larry, my dad just died.
Oh.
So I know it's about Batman without his pink.
Well, honestly, they don't talk. That's the best part about this flick. They really don't talk about it.
Really?
They mention it in passing, but there's not a whole drawn out thing about it. It's really, it focuses hardcore on the Batman and the Riddler. Like, it is.
I just haven't gotten to see it yet, so now I'm even more interested to see it.
I honestly, okay, so I know you said you can't sit in a theater for that long. In total honesty, it did not feel like 3 hours.
Oh, I can sit in a theater that long.
Yeah.
Chloe said that she can't sit. It did not feel like, because I saw that too. I was like, 3 hours. Oh boy, this is going to be. It flew by. It flew by. Like the entire. It's dark. It's gritty. It's a noir style. It does not have the Joker. Totally. It's the primary enemy is the Riddler. And
now, did I hear correctly that he's sending cards that he makes? Is there something about Riddler sending cards?
There are cards in the story.
Okay, because the comment someone made was, well, why didn't he just stake out a Michaels? Because obviously he's using a cry cut to make those.
Okay. It's very reminiscent of the Zodiac in a way.
Okay.
So it's like you can take a whole bunch of people. The Penguin is in it, and he's not the Danny DeVito. Whack, whack, whack. He's like.
Yeah, I've heard that the characters that they've created aren't the same ones that have been in the other movies.
They're very human.
So.
They're very human, and I know that's a weird descriptor, but they're very human. Like he's a gangster, not a mutated.
And that makes sense.
Man.
It makes sense for the Penguin to be more in that line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it a similar tone to the latest Joker movie in that sense? Is it like more serious?
Oh, it's
than
definitely.
cheesy?
Oh, it's definitely serious. Like, holy crap, is it serious? It is very dark.
Put it on my
is
list.
very. I was very apprehensive because what is this Batman number 17?
Oh, I know
And
why I didn't go see it.
Robert Patterson.
No, because there's theater that I go to has handicap access in two of their theaters at the top because I like to sit at the top. And for me to take stairs is not a pleasant thing. They're not showing it at this theater. They're only showing it at other ones that don't have those accessibilities options.
It's ridiculous.
No, the theater that I go to is the one where the bad thing happened during the Batman premiere.
Alrighty then, that's another reason probably not to go watch Batman in that theater.
They're not even showing it.
Yeah, that would
I can see that as a sensitivity thing.
Yeah,
Needless to say, I got a lot of calls that morning going, "Are you okay?" But no, that theater is nice because it has the handicap access up so you can get to the top level, and the other theaters don't have that. Otherwise, I'd go see it. That's the only reason I haven't gone and seen the Batman. That's the only reason I haven't is because of the theaters.
I am hard on DC, and anyone who's listened after hours and will be listening. I think they've messed up the DC universe multiple times. Their best movies have been the offshoot B-ranked superheroes. Shazam was amazing. Wonder Woman was pretty good. 84 was Aquaman was pretty good, but I don't know.
Long.
It was a little long, but like the Batman.
If they could just make a better movie that was shorter, then I wouldn't mind.
The Batman v Superman movies, I thought both of them sucked. I have not watched the recut, and I own it, but I haven't watched it, and I'm not sure I want to invest 5 hours into a movie.
Deep.
It's long. The Schneider cut's like 4.5 hours. It's something ridiculous, and I hated the movie the first time I watched
I've heard good things about the Schneider cut.
I have watched it though, and it is.
Although
Although it's long, it's much better than the original, but you can't really get worse than the original.
Yeah,
I didn't have a clue what was going on in that first one.
If I had to watch another dream sequence of bats flying up through a cave, I was going to scream. The Martha. Who do you know, Martha? Martha's my mom.
About?
No, Martha's my mom.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord. That was just so. But yeah, Snyder Cut can't really get worse. I have heard better things about it, but I really don't know if I want to sit. I might have to just watch half of it and then sit down and watch the other half. But I'm real hard on DC movies, but ultimately Patterson did an amazing job. Michael
Keaton is my Batman.
No, Keaton did an amazing job. He really did.
I went and saw that when it came out back in the theater. That was the summer of good movies.
I actually watched it at a drive-in. I watched it at a drive-in. But Keaton did an amazing job. But Patterson definitely plays, and he's a very human Batman.
Well, that just means that's the legends are true, that vampires do turn into bats.
Exactly. So, but yeah.
No, I haven't heard anything bad about his prince. I haven't heard anything bad about his... Yeah,
no, he's the opposite, actually. He's like really dark. really, really dark. He's the opposite.
Things about his... So, like I say, it's a movie I want to see. It's just, I can't find a theater that suits me to go see it in.
In all honesty, I think you're to a point where you might just be better off just waiting.
I probably will.
Because one, I'm not entirely sure if many theaters nowadays, well, I mean, as a bonus, you should be able to get it in the very cheap theater. But let's see. Does Amazon have a release?
See, remember, the reason for me not going to the theater is accessibility. So I don't want to sit down on the floor and give myself and have to stare up at the screen for 3 hours when I can go sit at the top in the nice comfy chair and kick back and be all comfy while I watch.
See, we have recliners in ours. We have the...
Yes, but if you ever look at where the handicap seats are, they're all the floor level. And my preferred seat's all the way at the top. So I either have to try and climb the stairs or I have to sit in a seat I don't like. So there's very few theaters that I can really go to comfortably. So, like I say, I love the fact that I can watch them here at the theater that's closest, and they'll show Doctor Strange. Looking very forward to that one. That'll be my birthday present. But is there a release date? Well, I love Doctor Strange. They actually gave the makeup that they put on Benedict Cumberbatch gives him eyebrows and eyelashes, which is nice because he doesn't have them if you look otherwise.
So it looks like it is currently marked for release on June for the Batman.
Yeah, that won't be so bad to wait because I do want to see. I have nothing against it. It's just that was the only reason I didn't, is I couldn't find the right kind of theater. Yeah,
highly recommend. It is definitely a very solid movie. I did not feel like 3 hours. It's funny because they never actually call her Catwoman, but it's alluded to multiple times. She did an amazing job. That's Lenny Kravitz's daughter, Zoe Kravitz?
Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah, she did an amazing job. Honestly, I don't think there is an actor in that movie that I would say ultimately just did a bad job. Every actor did a phenomenal job in their roles. They were all great. It was just, and I like dark noir detective style, like The Bone Collector and stuff like that, and this really fit right up that alley. I was thoroughly pleased with the entire movie.
I'll look forward to it then.
It was one of those movies where they could have honestly replaced Batman with a detective, like a dark and gritty detective, and it would have still flowed.
Okay.
That's how humanistic like the Batman is that the Bat character could have been replaced, minus the secret identity, but he could have been replaced, and I think the movie would have still, for the most part, worked out. So solid. I give that movie a solid 8 out of 10. I'm looking forward to watching it again when it comes out on Blu-ray. Like, absolutely looking forward to watching it. It was such a good movie.
Well, that's good. Well, that just makes me even happier to know that it'll be out this summer when I can watch it and then pause it if I need to, and somewhere during its 3-hour marathon run.
Just watch it on a tablet. Take it with you.
No, I have a tune for a reason. And eventually I'll get my Plex server running again.
So I had to say that's another thing about the Series X that we bought, that it does good. I have a 4K Roku, but whatever software that they have that that shifts up the signal that comes in. It looks really nice on the Series X when it streams. Like I have my Vudu account hooked in. I've got my all my other streaming service plus. Like Moon Knight looked really nice. It's like, oh, you could see the fibers in his costume. Have either of y'all got sucked into the game known as Dark Soul? Not Dark. Am I really Elden Ring? Elden Ring. I was about to say I've only been playing the game for like 100+ hours, and here I am. But
it's basically Dark Souls, though, isn't it? So
yes and no.
Like a different version.
Okay, I didn't play a lot of Dark Souls. Like I am not a Dark Souls fan, but a couple of my friends are real big into Dark Souls. So from what I gathered from them is the boss difficulty and the world difficulty isn't as difficult in Elden Ring, but it's a huge open world map. It's like 4 times bigger than Skyrim, I think is what they said. It's massive. So it's one of those open world games. And don't get me wrong, it's not easy. It's like playing Skyrim on hard mode or playing Breath on the Wild on super hard mode. It's not easy. And if you go into a fight and you're either underskilled or underleveled, you will get your butt whooped straight up. Just you'll get beat. Honestly, one of the worst enemies in that game are the dang dog, because they always roam in a pack, and individually they're easy to beat, but when you got like 8 of them biting on you, you die super quick. So it's not as forgiving as some of the other games. It's definitely not your Breath of the Wild, where, I got 4 mobs on me, I'll be okay. No, absolutely not. It's I got 4 mobs on me, I need to run really, really fast. And you'll be walking along and a dragon will come up out of the ground because you woke it up. Or actually, my bad, the hill will become a dragon. And I've not had a video game like scare me other than like little maybe jump scares, but I was walking along, and it's in a newbie area, so it's a minor spoiler, but everyone's talked about this dang dragon, and I won't tell you where. But you'll just be walking along, and all of a sudden what you thought was a hill becomes a dragon and wakes up, and it fits, it works. Like even unfolded, it still looks like the hill. Like it should have been the hill. It wasn't just like the hill disappears and the dragon's there. No, it literally, the dragon unfolds itself and it's rawr. And it's like, the game is absolutely stunning. I bought an alien.
What does the dragon say again? What the dragon say?
Rawr. Rawr. I bought an Alienware laptop because it was, oddly enough, the cheapest laptop with the specs that I never thought I'd say that about an Alien. But I can play it on Mac settings. Alienware. Well, I wanted a 3070 in it. And so my options were basically 2 laptops. I could either get the Alienware, or I could get Asus ROG Zypher that they had. And the only difference between the 2 laptops, like same RAM, they both had Ryzen 9 5900Hs. So they're identical laptop, same GPU, everything. The only difference is one of them had a 144 hertz refresh and the other one had a 240 hertz refresh. The Alienware is the 240, but at their sticker price, the Alienware was $1,750 and the Asus was $1,550. And the difference between 144 and 240 to the human eye is not that big of a difference. Like it's really, once you get over 144, can you still see it? Can you still perceive it? Technically, yes. It does appear a little smoother, but the gain for 100 hertz refresh is not as big as, say, 60 to 120 would be. So I was just going to get the Asus because, it's $200 different. But then they had an open box Alienware. Basically, someone bought it, they opened it, went, I really don't want it, closed the box and returned it. Like the laptop was immaculate. It didn't even have a fingerprint on it. They might have honestly never taken it out of but it was $200 cheaper, which actually made it like $25 cheaper in the ROG. So I ended up getting that. But the bonus is I can play Elden Ring at max settings on my laptop. So yeah. It's just an absolutely gorgeous game. I love everything about it so far, except dying as many times as I do. You'll get over losing, because they have runes, which is what basically is souls for Dark Souls, or they're called runes this time, and it's your currency too. Like there isn't gold or copper in this game. It's runes. You spend runes to level up and you spend runes to buy items. It's all the same thing. And there isn't a death penalty per se. Like if you die, you don't lose 10% of your rune. Normally, there's a caveat to that. But what happens is it puts up this little crystalline looking tree, and you got to run back and touch the tree, and then you get all your runes back. The problem is you have to make it back to your little tree without dying again, because if you die again, that tree goes away and you've lost all of those runes. I've died and I've double died and lost 10,000 runes. Trust me, you get over it real quick. It's like, whatever. It does suck, but it's just, honestly, you get to a point where like you can't even get angry. Like I died in this really awkward place, and I was like, yeah, I'm not even going to try to find my little crystal tree, because I honestly had no idea where the hell I was, and I couldn't find my way back. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to find where I died at. So I was like, yep, that was like 7,000 runes. Bye. Not even going to worry about it, because they ain't coming back. But yeah, highly recommend the game. Solid game. If you like Dark Souls, or if you like those huge open world games, highly recommend. If you like Skyrim but you want something a little more difficult, definitely recommend it. If you get frustrated with really hard games, be careful. Don't play on the good keyboard. Actually, don't play on the keyboard at all. Like, the game sucks on the keyboard. Straight up, it's horrible. It's a horrible experience. You have to have a controller, because the game was designed for console play. So it really does fit the controller aspect really well. It's a great game on controller, but playing it on a keyboard and mouse, frustrating to say the least. Good thing is that if you have a PlayStation, Xbox, or a Pro controller from Nintendo, they all work and they're all optimized. So you actually get haptic feedback. Like on my Switch controller, I get haptic feedback on. So it does a little vibrating and stuff. So it's kind of neat. So they really did put a lot of thought into. Hello?
Yeah, still here.
Everyone got quiet. It's like,
well, we were listening to you explain the game and how well that they had put it together, and your review of it.
Yeah, honestly, I solidly recommend it. If you're holding off because you weren't a fan of Dark Souls, I would say give it a try, because it's not as hard as Dark Souls. It is difficult, but there's a sense of accomplishment. I think I watch a YouTuber named Boogie298. He said that he didn't get the game originally because he hated the Dark Souls, because he would beat a boss and he didn't have that sense of accomplishment you get usually with beating a boss. This game you do. Like, there's the main story, and right now the record for beating the game is sub 20 minutes. So you can rush through it and beat the game and just go through the main story arc, and you don't have to go in any of the side dungeons or any of the world bosses. They're optional for the most part. But when you beat a boss in Dark Souls, there's a sense of accomplishment, and you don't get handicapped a lot of the time, because you can literally just explore. I've got 60 hours legitly. I think I have 60 hours in on the game, and you can just explore. I've only killed like the first boss for the storyline. Everything else has just been me wandering around the world, killing little dungeon guys. If you find a dungeon that has a boss that's too hard for you, you leave. Go get some better equipment, level up a few times, go explore, get better at the game, go back, and then you fight him again. And you can keep doing that. You don't have to beat that enemy to progress the storyline. And when you do beat that enemy, it's a real sense of accomplishment. It's really like, oh, wow, I did something, And the reward, I think honestly the best part about it is the rewards from the bosses aren't required to beat the game. I'm using the starting weapon for my guy, and it's been said that my starting weapon is, you can take it to the end game. I could take it to the end of the game with the weapon that I started the game with upgrade, because you can turn in smithing stones to make it +1, +3, all the way up to +25. And once you get it, but it's non-magical, so I can just use regular Z to acquire smithing stones. And I can get it to +25, and at +25, it's almost as good as any of the magical stuff. And even the magical ones, they're not like boss drop. You can kind of just get them out in the world. And that's one of the things I love about this game is it easy? No. You actually do have to put some work in to get your stuff, but it's not blocked by an enemy. The enemies are there as an option. You don't have to beat, but you want to them. It's a weird thing. I want to beat that enemy. Like, there's these two crystalline twins that are romping my tail right now. and I cannot wait. I don't care what they drop. I do not care what they drop. I want to beat them, and I will feel great when I finally do, because they absolutely raffle stomp me the first couple times I played them. You know, I remember killing my first dragon in that game, and it wasn't like Skyrim where you kill your first dragon and your newbies. No. I was like level 40 or 50 something before I finally went back and was able to kill the dragon. And it wasn't an easy fight. Like, I could have made a mistake and he could have killed me on a couple occasions. So it was easier. I could take more hits because I was higher level. I had more hit points and I was doing more damage. So the fight didn't last as long, but it still wasn't I walk up 2 hits and it died. Oh no, it could have still easily. I got my butt kicked in the newbie zone by 4 knights because I was like, oh, it's only 4 of them. These are the same mobs that were killing me at level 10, and they absolutely whooped my level 60 butt. So it's a very, very, it's the reason it's the #1 selling game for like the last 3-4 weeks and should win game of the, like, it's beautiful. It's huge. It has so much side quests in it that I'll probably have like 500 hours in on it before I even go in and the final game. And even once you beat the final game, you can still go and explore. And a lot of people are like, okay, you know, I played it once, I beat it, I put like 150 hours in, and they make a new character and they go to play again because that's how much fun they had. And you know, I'm going to make a caster this time because I did a sword and board the first time. Like, I'm playing a samurai right now, and next time I play, I kind of want to do a wizard, a magical build. So it's almost Diablo-esque in that sense, where you want to take a character and then you have fun rolling a new character, because is the gameplay the same? Yes. Does it change the entirety of how you played the game? Yes. Also, yes. So, yeah, totally recommend it. I think it's an amazing game. Definitely play it with a controller, even if you're on a computer. Don't try to mouse and keyboard it. It has very clunky controls, but it looks absolutely beautiful.
I'm still working my way through Odyssey. That is a massive game.
Yeah.
I do like big game. Let's get my money's worth.
The last 2 video games that I've bought are both going to get 100 hours out of me, which is crazy. I picked up Arceus, of course, or Arceus, however you pronounce it.
That's the way it should be, though, because if you're going to spend that much money on a game, then you want to get a decent amount of playtime. That's the worst thing about the new like Call of Duties and stuff. Yeah, if you play the actual campaigns and don't do it online, it's just pointless. It's almost like they just produced it purely to go online with.
A lot of the games. So I've been reading a couple nerdy books, and like the first one was Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, and the second one was Reset Switch, I think is what it's called. And they talk about that stuff. Like they really do focus a lot on. Basically, the campaign is the tutorial to keep playing online, and that's what they want. Now, if you're into online Call of Duty or PUBG or any of those, awesome. Not my jam. I don't like online play.
No, just give me a big RPG that I can wander around for ages on.
Yeah, open world RPG, that's my type of stuff. I've never been into PvP. Even when I played EverQuest, I never did any of the PvP stuff. I stayed in the boring areas because that's what I enjoyed. And
Skyrim.
Skyrim.
I tend to play city builders or empire builders.
Those are fun,
but I play them on the levels where you don't have. Well, I play old ones because I reminisce about them. But if you play the ones that don't have the military aspect, technically you can't win the level. But that's okay, because as soon as I get a smoothly functioning city, then I get bored and I go make a new city and see how I can do it that way. But I'm a city builder person. I'm more that kind of thing than combat oriented when I play games.
Oh, it's whatever floats your boat. I mean, there's no. Do you enjoy games?
The closest I come to
that's all.
The closest I've come to like a combat game is the Untitled Goose Game. At this recently, to be perfectly honest, I don't like them in that they've never appealed to me. But the ones where you're trying to do city building, knowing what I'm like, makes sense. Because I like that sort of immersion into it and trying to make things work.
All right, ladies. Chloe just let me know that it's 1 o'clock. And
all right, so Larry, what does the dragon say?
Rar.
Okay.
What does the dragon say? Rar.
Right.
One of the things I did before we started is I pulled out my deck of the story engine cards, which is meant for writers and GMs or anybody who's looking to create a story. And it gives you some ideas and prompts on how to do that. They have a new one coming out called the World Engine, which lets you massive worlds. So I pulled the cards out to build a story prompt. So I figured, hey, we're gamers, we do a lot of stuff, who knows? So I figured I'd give a story prompt and just pulled out random cards. So before we leave, I kind of wanted to put that out there because, darn it, I wanted.
Okay,
so
sounds good to me.
This podcast's story prompt came out as a researcher wants to find a way back to a mysterious library, but a terrible secret will come out.
All right, you heard it. There's the story prompt for this episode of Gadgets. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. I thought it was great. If there was any audio issues, I do apologize. It may be a little hot there at one part. Still trying to get everything dialed back in, but thanks everyone for joining us. I don't know if this is going to be a weekly or bi-weekly type of deal yet. We're still discussing. Like, this was literally, it was almost as bad as whenever we did After Hours. It was hey, let's do a podcast. Let me contact a few people. Yeah, let's do a podcast.
Who's free?
Yeah, who's free? So we're in the process of still trying to find intro music. We do have an icon, kind of basic, but I kind of like it too. We might keep at least a hot minute.
Basic.
But
We like basic.
yeah. So everyone, thank you for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself. We're back because this is really fun. And honestly, if you want to know another reason why I kind of moved from the After Hours to this format, is a wider audience and also more to talk about. There's only so many ways you can talk about paint drying before you start repeating yourself over and over. And I kind of wanted to talk about some new stuff. And also, I'm very, very ADD when it comes to my hobbies. So this way, no matter what hobby I'm in this week, I can talk about it. If you really want to know part of the reason. But thank you folks for joining us. This is Larry signing out.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Thank you and see you again shortly.